So we left off in the middle of chapter 13. Donovan's at the dance. It's not going well. Worst night of his life. The Daniels are kind of walking around making fun of all the people that Donovan goes to school with. And Donovan has just dragged them into the bathroom where they sort of sounded like they were kind of hinting that they would, if you don't kind of get together, we're going to end up letting them know what you did. I sighed. Go home. This place isn't for you. Ooh, now I'm insulted, Nussbaum drawled. And by the way, we're on page 138. We come all the way across town to visit your smarty pants school and you try to kick us out? Where's your hospitality? You didn't show us your locker. You didn't show us your homeroom. You didn't even show us your famous robot. We deserve better than that. I looked at him skeptically. You're interested in the robot? Interested, man. I'm a robot enthusiast. I saw the Terminator like 20 times. I hesitated. If I show you Tin Man, do you promise to leave the Academy kids alone? Sanderson snapped his two-finger salute. Scout's honor. You were never a scout, sneered Nussbaum. They threw you out. They threw us all out when Donovan burned down the tent. I couldn't suppress a smile. It said fireproof on the box. Maybe they meant the box was fireproof, Nussbaum conceded. We all laughed. At the time, it hadn't been funny, but it was pretty funny now. I'll show you the robot. Homeroom 107 wasn't far from the gym, just 2 turns down dim hallways past the custodial offices and a couple of science labs. The door was closed but unlocked. I opened it and turned on the lights to reveal the organized chaos that was the robotics program. Whoa, breathed Sanderson, paging Dr. Frankenstein. Funny, I was used to the place, but to the Daniels, it might have been bubbling test tubes and jagged forks of electricity dancing up Jacob's ladders. Equipment was piled on every surface. Components and square parts lay strewn like candy wrappers, and odd instruments and tools hung from the walls. There were even cobwebs of multicolored wire suspended from the ceiling and stretched all over. So where's the robot? Asked Nussbaum. I pointed to Tin Man at the center of it all. Star of our show. What? That? Sanderson exclaimed in disbelief. That's just a metal box with a picture of some old guy eating a banana. That's Einstein. Einstein, Nussbaum exploded. He's old, isn't he? No, he's dead. Sheesh, how stupid can you get? Sanderson gestured at the jungle of wires and technology that surrounded us. Donovan, you understand all this stuff? I don't understand any of it, I replied honestly. Even Mr. Osborne doesn't get much more than half. That's why it takes a team. We've got mechanical people, electronics people, computer people, hydraulics people, and pneumatics people. And which are you? Nussbaum prodded. I downloaded the pictures, I admitted ruefully, and I'm good with the controller. Years of practice with video games. They seemed dissatisfied with this explanation, like I was holding something back. Guys, you of all people know I'm at this school. Do you think I got into the academy for my brain and then busted up the gym on purpose so I'd have a cover story as an excuse to come here every day? I'm hiding. I know it's not going to last forever, but I have to keep it going at least until the heat dies down. My family doesn't have the kind of money it would take to fix that gym or pay for lawyers if we get sued, so please don't make it any harder than it already is. They took pity on me. It must have been the lab that did the trick. Maybe it finally sunk in how unfun it was to be the only mental turkey in a school full of soaring eagles. By the time we got back to the gym, the dance was completely off the chain. The floor almost moved with the force of hundreds of pounding feet. Bodies were packed in like sardines, and the heat and humidity pushing past the tolerance level. The chaperones were trying in vain to thin out the crowd, which had to be far past what the fire marshal would have found acceptable. Whatever food and drink was left had been mashed into a paste and spread as a thin film across the hardwood. The music was so loud that the beat rattled your brain inside the casing of your skull. Did I mention the smell? Pizza, sweat, and Axe body spray. Sanderson grabbed Nussbaum. Let's find Heather and Deirdre. I'll catch up with you guys later, I promised. It was a lie. The only person I intended to catch up with was Mr. Osborne. Once my extra credit was in the bag, I was out of here. You couldn't push through the crowd anymore. You had to be swallowed, the way an amoeba ingests its food. Movement was worth your life. At least twice the ebb and flow took me out onto the dance floor. At one point I passed very close to Chloe, who glared at me, still miffed. When I spotted Oz, he looked like he now regretted making attendance mandatory for his students. It served him right. I waved my arm in an attempt to catch his attention, and that's when I recognized the other adult standing beside him, the man who had to be even hotter than the rest of us in his three-piece suit, Dr. Schultz. I ducked out of the superintendent's line of sight. He'd never spot me at the crowd's butt level. Being trampled was a small price to pay to remain hidden. Extra credit meant nothing now. All that mattered was escape. I got down on all fours and crawled. Not the most dignified way to leave a party, and definitely not the cleanest. Let me tell you, whether it's the coolest Hardcastle jock or the dweebiest squint in the academy, it hurts the same way when they stomp on your fingers. But it was the most efficient way to travel. Pretty soon, I was at the door home free. Before I made my break, I gave the madness one last scan, and that's what I saw nearly stopped my heart. At the very center of the dance floor, the nucleus of the amoeba, a huge tight circle had formed around a small group of dancers. 3 of them, to be exact. Daniel Sanderson, Daniel Nussbaum, and Tin Man, Metallica Squarepants. Rage almost blinded me. My friends had doubled back to the lab and wheeled that robot right into the righteous pounding heart of the Valentine dance. The dilemma was excruciating and instantly clear. If I went back in there to rescue Tin Man and Schultz spotted me, my whole world would come crashing down around my ears. What did I care if Tin Man got trashed? It wasn't my robot. It wasn't even my school. The sum total of my contribution to the project was a name and Einstein eating a banana. No, not true. I'd made another contribution, the Daniels. If it wasn't for me, those 2 bottom feeders would have never known that the Tin Man even existed. Anything that happened to that poor robot tonight was my fault. That's when it hit me. I did care. Not so much about the robotics team, and definitely not about some bucket of bolts on mechanium wheels. How many chances did I get to limit the damage of my impulses? Once Atlas's globe is rolling, there's nothing anybody can do to save that gym at the bottom of the hill. But this was different. Tin Man wasn't wrecked yet. There was still time to make things right. I pushed back into the gym, jamming my way through the dancing torsos. I could see that my trajectory was taking me on a collision course with Oz and yikes, Dr. Schultz. The adults had spotted Tin Man and were rushing to the robot. I grabbed a baseball cap off the nearest head and jammed it low over my face. Why make it easy for the guy to bust me? Some of my classmates had noticed, too. Kevin, JC, and Latrell were stuck at various places in the crowd, struggling to reach Tin Man. Abigail was red-faced and screaming, though her cries were inaudible in the general din. Chloe got behind me, riding my wake towards the scene of the crime. We were making progress, but would we get there in time? At the center of it, Sanderson was draped over Tin Man's back, rolling the robot to and fro as if slow dancing with it. Nussbaum had hold of the 2 forklift arms and was jitterbugging to his own rhythms. I tackled him to the gym floor, and when he went down, he took one of the arms with him. Triumphantly, he held it over his head, and an enormous cheer rose in the gym. To my classmates, it meant only one thing. Tin Man was being dismantled. Kevin and Latrell faced down Sanderson. Get away from Tin Man, Kevin bawled. Problem was, these guys had never been in a fight in their lives, so their body language was completely unfight-like. Latrell couldn't even make a fist properly. He had his thumb pressed inside his fingers. Sanderson took one look at that and laughed in their faces. He stopped laughing, though, when Abigail booted him in the shins. Get out of my school, you. She struggled for just the right put-down. You average person. That's when it got ugly. A shoving match broke out. After a few seconds, it was no longer just the Daniels versus the robotics team. The conflict had widened. It was now Hardcastle versus the academy. All the resentment, the jealousy, and the bullying attitude towards the gifted program boiled over at that very spot, turning the dance into a free-for-all with Tin Man caught in the crossfire. The blood-curdling shriek was barely human. We all looked up to see Noah Euclidis poised atop the DJ's giant speaker tower, muscles flexed. At least they would have been if he had had any. The bizarre pose left no room for interpretation. It was a ridiculous time to notice it, but I finally understood what his outfit was supposed to be. He was supposed to be a WWE wrestler, just like the ones he had seen on YouTube, only 50 times skinnier, and before everybody's horrified eyes, he did exactly what they do on SmackDown. He launched himself off the tower into a spectacular dive into the fray. I figured he was dead meat, but his fall was broken by the people he landed on. The crowd swayed, absorbing his impact. Many figures went down. Tin Man was one of them. Oz looked like he wanted to tear himself in half. I'm pretty sure he couldn't decide whether he should rush to the aid of a fallen student or a fallen robot. And then, for the first time all night, something intelligent happened. The fire alarm went off. At first, I was kind of surprised it wasn't me who did it. It was very much my style. But when I looked over at the wall, the culprit was standing there, holding onto the lever. Dr. Schultz. I guess when you're the superintendent, you don't have to worry about getting in trouble. In the blink of an eye, several kids swarmed the gym floor. Hey, I knew an exit strategy when I saw one, and I was gone before Schultz could even glance in my direction. And that's where we'll stop.